For those who are just getting into this is a segment of our live streams on Mondays. We just always chat about what's going on Star Citizen-wise on Mondays, and we're caught up in a rabbit hole of base building discussion. So I thought we'd go back and check out this video where they actually talk quite a bit about base building and crafting after their announcement of it in, well, not announcement, but like their deep dive into how it would work in 2024. They did a little Star Citizen live here that I've listened to a couple times. They got some topics we could swing through here and get like a little bit of conversation going and see what comes of it. Land claims.
What our current thinking is, what our current plan is, what our current intention.
What's a land claim?
Land claims.
It's a claim
supposed to work. And
that's on land.
keep in mind that, like everything else, there's a period of time between now and when this is implemented, and we reserve the right to have any better ideas that come along. We reserve the right to look at what you've said on Reddit and Spectrum and everywhere else on YouTube comments and have that inspire better ideas. So while these things may change, let's talk about what the current plan for implementation is for land claims.
Yeah, so there's a lot here. I'll kind of walk through just plots of land in general, and then we'll talk about how the land claim beacons fall into that. So when you go to acquire a plot of land to build on, there's a couple choices you need to make straight off the bat. We have a general plot, which allows you to build anything, and then there are prospecting plots, which are a little bit smaller, they're cheaper, and they're more geared towards mining. You'll see a square layered on the terrain, and that's basically your current selected plot of land. You can grab a face of it, make it a rectangle, make it into a bigger square, and this is you selecting the surface area that you want. And the
leave it to CIG to reinvent the wheel and turn it into a square. Good God.
cost scales up with the surface area. If you were to purchase a 1x1 kilometer and then another 1x1 kilometer, it would actually be more expensive because the cost will take into account the total surface area you own on the planet. Where the beacon comes in is that you kind of skip this initial UEC cost for purchasing a plot. You just use the beacon and you have your plot of land. From then onwards, if you bought with UEC or you used a land claim beacon, there'll be a reoccurring UEC tax. And if you fail to pay that tax over a period of time, you'll begin to lose rights to your base, and eventually you'll lose complete ownership of the land, complete ownership of the building. They can be looted, someone else can buy up that area. That's, you know, it's very important that we avoid this concept of like a dead base. We don't want people to be able to just go AFK either for a year, even though they stacked up billions in their account. We still don't want them to be able to have a dead base. We want to free that up for the players. In addition to that, there will be some limitations where you can buy plots of land and use beacons. We're going to have, for want of a better term, a national park, both in lawful and lawless areas, and it's a no-build zone, and this allows us to reserve land that's pristine for exploration, it's pristine for resource gathering, and so on. I think that's, oh no, there's one other thing, sorry. When you have your plot of land, there'll also be an exclusion zone around it where no one else can buy or build, so you can't get boxed in. That is a high-level summary, I suppose, of the current plan for land claims and plots in general.
Gotcha. So
Yep.
let me see.
At this point, it is all plans in his head. Well, not in his head, but like from what he's saying, it's all plans.
I understand this, to re-summarize it here. So anybody will be able to go and purchase a plot of land so long as it's available, so long as it's not in one of these no-build exclusion zones. You reference national parks. They're not literal national parks on Pyro 3 or whatever. But you know, areas that are protected for gameplay reasons, we have to make sure that there's still plenty of areas to do missions and minables and stuff like this. So anybody will be able to buy a plot of land in one of the buildable areas. The land claims basically are your like coupon for that. It's like you can pay a brand new UEC cost to purchase that, or if you have a land claim, it's like, nope, I already prepaid. This is my prepaid voucher, and you hand that in, and you get the land claim for that. So it's open to everyone. One is just a voucher. You've already got that ready for you.
See, that's where most of the drama comes from, and I think that's really funny. People will look back at, God, what was it? I think it was, I want to say CitizenCon 2016, where they sold land claims. Terrible idea. Absolutely awful idea. Very, very scammy soundy. And like, this is why they have this whole reputation, because they did like stuff like this so much. Was it 2017? Okay, it might have been 2017 actually. Hold on. every year, every single year, there was some kind of a hubbub at CitizenCon. This was this year's, and it caused a ton of drama. People thought that CIG was literally selling land, but they weren't. They were selling the beacons that represent the land. So this was all with the Pioneer, like this is what it all had to do with. And I have such a bad connection right now that I can't even preview my YouTube video to see what's gonna be there. But the idea was they were selling land claims, which were these coupons or certificates or beacons that he's talking about in this video, that were essentially just an item in the game that you'd get whenever they were released, and then you'd be able to go and use them to get a land claim. But people thought they were literally selling the land and reserving it so nobody else could get it. People were like, well, what are we gonna do once the game comes out and all the land's already claimed? No. It was like getting a voucher. You still have to get into the game and go get the land. It's like getting a blueprint. You still have to go in the game and craft the stuff. So it wasn't actually that big of a deal. I just think it was dumb to buy. but they made plenty of money from it. And I mean, a lot of the stuff in this game seems dumb to buy to somebody. So I can't fault people for wanting to get the land if they know they're going to get it at some point anyways. Just, it was a weird self-created controversy that was almost entirely made because they just wanted to sell something else. If you're wondering how these land claims work, I can actually give you a little looky-loo, because they did give us a look at how they wanted base building to work in two different versions. So first they gave us this kind of small one.
The top of the card gives us a controllable augmented view of the land. In the new structure mode, we'll pick a small basic structure and hit construct. For this demo, the construction will be instantaneous, but in the final product, this will take you quite some time. We've done it. We've built our first structure. Let's have a look on the inside.
Yeah, this is all dev build. Just to be clear, I am not making these statements myself, as in like, I can't verify the information in these videos, but he does say somewhere here that this is working for them in their own builds, not in an MMO environment, but
structures. As we've already found the location and don't need to claim land in Lawless Pyro, we can straight dive into building our base. Keep in mind, the following UI is work in progress. But in the final version, as we walk into the small basic structure, we see an empty interior that is dimly lit. It's up to us to define what we will use this space for. In our case, we will want to make it into a home. We can see that the lights are still off, and that is a problem, because no lights means no atmosphere, no breathable atmosphere. So it's not ideal to live in. So how do we solve this issue? We can improve this by providing the building with power. Let's see if we can build something that helps us out.
so this is part of why engineering is important, not just because people think
let's take a quick moment
they want ships to blow up faster. Sure, maybe that's why. But also, obviously, bases need a resource system.
And I wonder what Declan was up doing there. Keep in mind that base building is still work in progress, but what you're seeing right now has been recorded directly in the client and works seamlessly between first person and the building mode.
See, so this is October 2024. I am sure the work on this feature has not been consistent since then. The devs who have been working on this probably had to go back to Squadron, probably had to work on other stuff. Likely the same people are working on some of the crafting functionality. So I'm not saying that this has made some giant leap in progress since then, but this is more than a year old at this point.
Okay, enough. Back to base building. In the list of new structures, we see a small fuel generator. That is something that could solve our problem, I think. Power providing structures need to be hooked up to other buildings inside construction ER mode, but we'll explain this later. The fuel generator is one of several structures that provides power, each with their own benefit and drawbacks. Fuel power is quick and easy to build, but it requires a constant supply of fuel besides its regular maintenance. If a structure is not maintained, it will halt its activity. Players will need to maintain fuses to keep the building operational.
So all of this is maintenance, it's engineering, it's the upkeep. It's why people keep saying, oh, you know, big orgs are going to get huge bases, take over a ton of land. In this time we've been covering base building so far, we have learned that the price of owning these spaces will increase dramatically as you get more space on a planet, per planet basis. You have to maintain all of them, from a fuel to a fuses to a literally just hooking up the power kind of standpoint. You're going to have to transport stuff to and from them physically. Like, having a lot of bases might sound like a great thing to some people, but it's going to be a drag. It might not be the best to have all of a bunch of bases on one planet. You probably want to have bases on a bunch of different planets, different resources, different vantage points. I think that's less of a problem, and more a problem. What if one org has a huge base on every planet in a system? That kind of thing is going to be the rough part.
The better crafted fuse, the longer it lasts. This is where the fuse goes on this building. Next up, we have a terminal that gives us access to the status of our building.
This isn't new. It's not 4 years old, but it's not new.
And, more importantly, we get to activate it here.
So this is the smaller version that they showed, but then they jumped forward to
automated drones are capable
what they
of
want to be a bigger version. I think this is definitely much further away. This would be kind of like the first version of base building I can imagine us getting is like the small drones, like maybe the Starlancer or the Starlancer build. But this kind of stuff is crazy. This is like pioneer level.
Quite a big advantage. We'll pop into our construction AR and we'll get down a generator, we'll connect some buildings together just so we have a place to call home before we begin. All right, there we go. So we've settled on one of the brand new underground resource deposits and we're about to exploit it using this. It is our extractors. This particular one is a large solid extractor. We'll also have liquid and gas depending on which type of deposit that you've settled on. We have our output grid here where we're getting all the brand new resources up out the ground.
This is going to be difficult because you got to factor all this stuff into the economy. I think in this video, he says something along the lines of everything in the game is going to have a resource sink and source. And so everything that does pop up to do that, they need to actually factor in how it's going to impact the rest of the game.
Resolve that and get that like in a really good state.
So what
Go ahead.
What you're talking about there is like the concept of resource sources and sinks, because having your extractor on your base is a source of resources until it's depleted, but then we need to make sure that there's also sinks for that resource in various gameplay loops, so that you don't just have inflation essentially of just a build up of resources you can't do anything with. So yeah, that'll be a very careful balancing act.
And this is talking about, I think, resources actually respawning underneath bases.
To them away, or will we have to eject them by hand? Tractor them away. Underground transit system and stuff. To mention it's this kind of like an underground transit system and stuff that allows certain buildings to connect with other buildings underground, even if you don't see them connected above ground.
Yeah, freight elevator network.
Yeah. Hey, a mining question. Will underground deposits respawn over time, and how is the overall rarity of minerals accounted for in the economy?
Short answer, yes. So they will respawn, but it is very unlikely that they will respawn on the land plot that you already have. So if you already have a base, you already extracted it, every mineral that was below your extractor, it's very unlikely that the deposit will respawn. So what we want to see there is players more moving around in their bases and basically going through new locations and actually grabbing new resources. And to answer the economy part of that question, yes, that is a huge undertaking that we have to go through here, and that is like we really have to get certain resources out of the system, and the system being our game. And that means that we, as the system design team and everyone working on that, we really have to work closely with the economy team and make sure that like even everything that we pull out of the system is meaningful, and then we create certain values for certain resources, because we really want to have like a player-driven economy, and we want to have a healthy in-game economy that is driven by our game. And it's a challenge, but we are definitely motivated to resolve that and get that like in a really good state.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of stuff happening at the same time. That's for sure. But they talk about the underground resources and stuff, the deposits, the power management, all that kind of jazz in this presentation. I know it's a little bit old. It's
you'll drag
probably like a year.
a nearby land.
A little over a year old now.
Here's a concept of construction ER. From here, we get a more detailed view of the land. Where can and can't I settle? For an example, inside a nature reserve, construction will be prohibited. Are nearby areas flat enough to place my structures on? Are there any underground extraction deposits nearby? And if so, what are their quality and quantity? Let's say we found a good place to start building our base. Then next up, we need to find a good place for our first structure.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And really the biggest signs we have that this is even going anywhere at all, well, we don't. It wasn't even mentioned on the letter from the chairman. So I wouldn't think this is really a focus of this year. Not covering this because I think it's coming anytime soon. Really, it was just a topic in the chat. But there are some parts of this showing up in the files. There have been a little bit of data mining that finds some aspects that refer to base building in the files, and it's kind of a insight into some of the leak stuff going on, which we don't really cover much, but it is the only sign that we have so far. I do find one of the best parts though of this whole story, this saga, was their stupid little advertisement for it. When was that? Star Citizen 2024. I want to say it was like a 3.24 ad. The little video they did for it. Is this it?
Alpha 324 is
Oh
bringing
shoot,
tremendous
this is
changes
it.
to how you manage your belongings.
This is so dumb. This was crazy. This was like they were advertising 324. This is the first time they had ever done this, like a short to advertise a patch, and it was like, oh, okay, maybe this is something new that they're going to start doing with all their videos. But they only did it once, I think.
In the verse, organize your cargo, keep your gear close,
It's a big feature. It's a
and jump
cool
straight
update.
into the fray. Your own space means quicker access to the things you need.
It's like, cool, persistent location, sick. And then they went and they did this in classic f***ing CIG fashion.
And Alpha 324 is just the beginning of establishing your home. Stay tuned for more at CitizenCon this year. Until then,
Bro, you know how hyped it got when people were seeing suit lockers? They're like, stay tuned for Star. It had nothing to do with the patch. It was literally, this patch is coming out. Oh yeah, and then also we're throwing a convention later this year. It was an ad for an idea of a feature. Don't do that anymore, CIG. Don't do that. This was awful.
Alpha 324. It's time to shape your own adventure.
You don't need to play with people like that anymore to market. So silly. But anyways, this is a little dive into base building and the plan for it. I don't know when it's going to come. I hope it comes sometime soon. I hope we can at least test this in the preview channel this year. But it wasn't on the letter from the chairman. Maybe they'll do like their big roadmap roundup in February where they show us all the big things they want to work on this year. But it seems to be a little bit different the way that they're doing it all. So I don't know how it's going to work, but I wouldn't place any bets on base building being a thing in the live game this year. Crafting? Sure. Base building, maybe not so much.